There is a moment that happens in almost every household, and almost no one notices it when it's occurring. Someone walks through the front door. Maybe it's the person who just got home from work. Maybe it's a teenager coming downstairs. And your cat, without moving from the couch, without lifting its head more than an inch, opens one eye and watches. Not the door. Not the sound. The person. Specifically and only that person for exactly as long as it takes to make a decision. Then the eye closes. And your cat goes back to whatever it was doing, which from the outside looked like nothing but wasn't. That moment, 2 seconds, maybe 3, is your cat running a calculation it has been refining since the day it arrived in your home. It is deciding where that person ranks. And your cat has been doing this for every single person who lives with you. Welcome back to Cat Mind. What I'm going to walk you through today is something the research on feline social cognition has only recently begun to fully describe. Your cat has a hierarchy. A ranked, updated, behaviorally active social map of every person inside your house. And the criteria it uses to build that ranking are not the ones you would expect. They are not about who feeds it most or who it sleeps on. The criteria are more precise than that, more revealing, and in some cases, more uncomfortable than most people are prepared to hear. Stay until the end because the last thing I want to tell you about this is the part that changes how you read everything that came before it. Before we get into how your cat ranks people, you need to understand something about how cats perceive social structure in the first place. Cats are not pack animals. They did not evolve with the rigid dominance hierarchies of wolves or the complex group politics of primates. For most of evolutionary history, domestic cats lived as facultative social animals, capable of group living but not dependent on it. What this means is that cats did not inherit a built-in social template. They assess each relationship individually from scratch, every time. A dog enters a home and immediately begins fitting people into pre-existing social categories it inherited from pack life. A cat does something more precise. It observes. It builds a model of each person based on direct behavioral evidence. And it updates that model continuously across months and years. Research published in the journal Animal Cognition has documented that domestic cats track individual humans as distinct social entities, not as interchangeable members of a group. Your cat does not experience your household as a unit. It experiences each person in it as a separate relationship with a separate status. And those statuses are not equal. They are ranked. Not in a simple linear order, that would be too blunt an instrument for what a cat actually does. But there is a hierarchy. There are people your cat defers to, people it tolerates, people it actively seeks, and people it has quietly dismissed. The question researchers began asking is, what determines where someone falls? And the answer, once it became clear, was both elegant and slightly destabilizing. The primary variable your cat uses to rank the people in your home is not affection. It is not attention. It is not even reliability of food. It is perceived competence at navigating the cat's environment on the cat's terms. Let me explain exactly what that means. Cats pay close attention to behavioral consistency. Not in the way we usually think about consistency, showing up at a fixed time, doing the same thing every day. The consistency cats track is subtler. It is the consistency between what a person signals with their body and what they actually do next. A person who moves calmly, who does not startle, who does not create sudden loud sounds, who doesn't pick up the cat before the cat has indicated readiness, that person registers as behaviorally legible, predictable. And for a cat, a predator whose survival depended on reading environments accurately, legibility equals safety. A person who is energetically inconsistent, who grabs the cat without warning, who speaks loudly near it, who moves erratically through the space, that person registers as noise in the system. Not as a threat necessarily, but as low value in the hierarchy because interacting with them carries a cost. Dr. John Bradshaw, one of the foremost researchers in feline social cognition at the University of Bristol, describes it this way: cats do not distinguish between humans and other cats in any fundamental social sense. They apply the same rules they would to feline relationships. Which means that to your cat, the person in your house who moves most like a calm, socially sophisticated cat is the person ranked highest. And this is where it starts to get ironic. Because the person who loves the cat most intensely, who wants to hold it, who chases it across the room to give it attention, that person is often ranked lower than the person who barely notices the cat. Because in feline social logic, restraint signals status. Pursuit signals need. There is a study I want you to know about. Researchers at Kyoto University presented cats with a scenario where a person attempted to open a container and could not do so. That person then asked a bystander for help. In one condition, the bystander helped. In another, the bystander refused and turned away. After observing this interaction, the cats were offered food from both the helper and the refuser. The cats consistently avoided the person who had refused to help. They were not directly involved in the interaction. They were watching. And they drew a social conclusion from what they observed, and acted on it. This is called third-party social evaluation. It means your cat is not only assessing its own interactions with each person in your house. It is watching how you interact with each other. And it is updating its rankings based on what it concludes about each person from those interactions. The person who frequently raises their voice in your home, even if never at the cat, is being evaluated. The person who is quietly competent and calm is being evaluated. Your cat has been attending to the social dynamics of your household, processing them, drawing conclusions from them, every day since it arrived. Now let's talk about what the hierarchy actually looks like in behavioral terms. Because the ranking does not stay abstract, it expresses itself in concrete, readable ways. The person ranked highest in your cat's hierarchy is almost never the person the cat performs the most affection toward in public, in front of others. The highest ranked person is typically the one your cat seeks out when it is stressed. Not when it wants to play. Not when it wants food. When it is uncertain. Veterinary behaviorists at the University of California, Davis documented this in multi-person households where cats were exposed to mild stressors. Unfamiliar visitors, loud sounds. The cat consistently moved toward one specific person and positioned itself in proximity to that person. Not necessarily touching, but within what researchers call the safe zone. That person, whatever their level of expressed affection for the cat, had been designated as the cat's primary social anchor in the household. A second behavioral marker is what researchers call gaze direction during novel stimuli. When something new or uncertain enters the household, a package, an unfamiliar sound, cats perform what is called social referencing. They look at a specific person to read that person's reaction before deciding how to respond themselves. This is the same behavior that human infants perform when they look at a caregiver before deciding whether an unfamiliar object is safe to approach. The person your cat social references, the face it looks to when it needs to interpret something new, is the person ranked at the top of its hierarchy. You can observe this directly. The next time something unexpected happens in your home, watch your cat's eyes before it reacts. Watch whose face it checks. That moment of eye contact, quick, direct, from the cat to one specific person, is your cat telling you in the clearest possible way who it trusts most. A third marker is territorial sponsorship. This is subtler and takes longer to notice, but it is one of the most consistent findings in multi-person household research. Cats treat the home as a mapped territory with zones of varying value. High-value zones are areas the cat chooses to rest in, eat in, observe from. In multi-person households, cats consistently position their highest value resting zones in proximity to the person they have ranked highest in the hierarchy. Not in the same room always. Not always in contact. But within a radius that is not accidental, typically within 3 to 6 meters during calm household periods. If you map where your cat spends the most time across a week, you are mapping its proximity preference, and therefore its hierarchy in the most literal spatial terms. Now I want to talk about something that surprises people when they hear it. The hierarchy is not fixed. It is active, responsive, and updates continuously. A person's rank in the hierarchy can fall, sometimes significantly, if their behavioral profile changes. Illness, stress, a change in schedule, a change in emotional state. Cats track the subtle physiological signals of human stress with remarkable precision. They can detect changes in heart rate, skin conductance, and cortisol through scent. Research from the University of Naples Federico II found that cats exposed to owners in different emotional states altered their own behavior accordingly, more vigilant when the owner was stressed, more exploratory when the owner was calm. This means a person going through a difficult period, elevated stress, disrupted sleep, behavioral change, may notice a subtle shift in how the cat relates to them. Not abandonment. Not indifference. The cat is still tracking. But it may temporarily lower that person's effective rank while updating its model of their current state. And ranks can rise. A person who has historically been low in the hierarchy, perhaps because of unpredictable behavior, can move up, gradually, through consistent behavioral change. It is not fast. Cats do not revise social rankings quickly. The downward revision of a person who frequently startles the cat or grabs it takes months to repair. But it does repair. And the mechanism that does it is always the same: behavioral consistency over time. The cat notices. The cat updates. Slowly, but it updates. There is one more layer to this that I want to address because it is the one people find most difficult to sit with. Some people in your household may have been ranked so low, not through cruelty, simply through behavioral incompatibility, that the cat has made a stable decision to avoid them. This is not the cat being mean. It is the cat being efficient. A social animal with limited energy allocates that energy toward relationships that carry the lowest cost. In feline social cognition research, this is called relationship devaluation. The cat has not written someone off in any emotional sense. It has simply stopped investing. And the person at the receiving end of this often reports something that is dissonant and confusing. They like the cat, they want the cat's attention, and the cat consistently, quietly turns away. If this is happening to you, here is what the research says. The cat's avoidance is behavioral, not personal. And it is reversible with the right approach. Stop pursuing. This is the single most counterintuitive and most effective change a person can make. Stop trying to initiate contact. Completely. Sit near the cat's space. Be present without agenda. Let the cat set every term of every interaction. This is what behaviorists call the slow invitation. You are not giving up. You are removing the behavioral cost the cat associates with interacting with you. You are giving it reason to revise. A study from the University of Edinburgh tracked this intervention across 14 multi-person households where one resident had a significantly lower rank with the household cat. After 8 weeks of consistent non-pursuit interaction, presence without initiation, 11 of the 14 cats had measurably increased proximity seeking toward that resident. The cat had updated the ranking. Not because it was told to. Not because anything external changed. Because the person's behavioral profile had changed and the cat noticed. Here is the thing that I think is easy to miss in all of this. Your cat's hierarchy is not a judgment of who is a better person. It is a map of who is easiest to be near in purely feline terms. It reflects the cat's sensory and cognitive experience of each person's behavioral signature. The person who ranks highest in a cat's hierarchy is often surprised. They didn't try to be. They were simply themselves, and themselves happened to be legible to the cat. The person who ranks lowest is often the one who tried hardest. And that trying, that pursuit, that urgency to be close, registered as pressure in a system that values calm. What I find genuinely fascinating about this is what it reveals about the nature of the relationship between cats and humans over the 10,000 years of domestication. Cats were never bred for obedience. They were never selected for submission. They tolerated human proximity because it was advantageous, and then they stayed because something else developed. What developed is what researchers now call co-regulative attachment, a form of relationship in which two individuals actively calibrate their proximity and behavior to each other over time. Your cat is not simply living in your house. It is in a relationship with the people in your house. A relationship it takes seriously enough to rank, maintain, and update. That ranking is not a dismissal of the people it ranks lower. It is evidence that the relationship exists at all, that your cat is an active social participant in your life. An animal that did not care about the social structure of your household would not build a hierarchy. It would simply be there. Your cat is not simply there. It is attending. It is evaluating. It is tracking behavioral data about every person you live with, and making decisions based on what it finds. The next time your cat walks into a room, finds one specific person, and settles close to them without any obvious cause, that is not coincidence. That is a conclusion. Based on weeks or months of accumulated behavioral observation. That is your cat deciding again who it trusts. You are a data point in a model your cat has been building since it arrived. The question worth sitting with is what that model currently says about you. Not what you wish it said. What your behavior, consistently, over time, has given the cat reason to conclude. That is a more honest mirror than most of us encounter in a day. And it is sitting on your couch, watching with one eye open. Who does your cat go to when something unfamiliar happens in your home? Tell me in the comments, and tell me if that surprised you or confirmed exactly what you already suspected. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the kind of thing we go into every week. The science of what your cat actually knows. I'll see you in the next one.